This is my story. I was marrying the wrong woman, I thought as I slid the wedding band on the ring finger of May Hartley in my cousin's chambers in the Beverly Hills courthouse. She probably wanted a proper wedding. But I was too heartbroken to go through that. She was shorter than Viv, about 5 to VIP's 5'8", and my 6 to she was covier than Viv. Her hair wasn't blonde and straight, it was black and wavy, a little out of control and messy. Her eyes were dark nights. Not blue. She wore little makeup, and I knew she wore glasses, which her mother had yanked off for the nose as she entered the chamber's judge. Forrest Knight was supposed to officiate mine and VIP's wedding, but he was marrying me to my fiancé. No ex-fiancé, half-sister Liv, was now someone else's wife, and I was someone else's husband. I reminded myself when I said we were husband and wife and I could kiss the bride. She looked up and smiled as if trying to comfort me for being second best. I gave her a perfunctory kiss, a brush of my lips against hers. I had married a woman 11 years my junior high. She was 23 years old. Div was a grown-up compared to me. She was 29 and a high-powered lawyer at one of the most prestigious law firms in Los Angeles. She even graduated from university. What was she studying? I wasn't sure. I didn't know. I knew she went to the University of Washington in Seattle. They've gone to Harvard, as had I. We were an Ivy League family, and here I was with someone who couldn't get into an Ivy despite her father's wealth and position, not the sharpest pencil in the box. Viv headset about as I shrugged it off. Now she was a noose around my neck. My mother was stiff, her parents were solicitous, and my father was in Asia, and he sent me a thumbs up. When I told him I was getting married to the wrong Hartley, no one was happy about this. I had no choice. The Hartley family busy. This bylaw set up a couple of generations ago was clear. Mergers require marriage to keep the business in the family. Who the fuck still did such archaic shit? I hadn't had a problem with it because I'd been in love with Viv and she'd been in love with me. We had been friends for 5 years. And dated for 1. We had been engaged for 6 months, and the day before we were to be married, everything changed. They've announced she'd fallen in love with some tech bro in San Francisco and had married him. She was sorry. But there was nothing she could do about how she felt. She broke up with me through the Hartley family lawyer. We were going to have 2 weddings, one in private with Forrest officiating to ensure that the merger was not delayed, and one 6 months later. A public one with all the pomp and show. A night wedding demanded and deserved. Julian and Monica Hartley suggested I marry in May to keep the merger going. I had said, sure. Why the hell not? On the day when I should have been marrying Vivian, I was marrying May. I looked at the diminutive woman. Standing next to me with the champagne glass in her hand, Forrest had opened several bottles of Dom Perignon to celebrate the occasion. She looked happy. Well, why the fuck wouldn't she be? She was married to someone with whom she would never have a chance, and her father's money would get her. Or a decent match, but not a knight. She was a wallflower, far removed from the vibrant woman. Vivian was welcomed to the family in December. Julian hugged me. He wasn't happy about this either, but guess what? He wasn't marrying a twit, which made him better off than me. Yes, Deck, welcome. Monica added. And I thought maybe Julian was not doing all that much better because, speaking of twits, Monica Hartley had the not-so-rare distinction of being a trophy wife, as she may not have gotten her mother's looks, just her personality. Take care of my little girl. She whispered. Her eyes were filled with tears. Of course, I kept my smile tight when we exited the courthouse. I was angrier than before the wedding ceremony. I was tired, And this woman was now my wife, a woman I had no interest in. We got into the back of the Escalade, and I immediately pushed the button to pull down the privacy screen. My driver knew where we were going. "I'm going to drop you off." I told her I had to go into the office. She nodded and took her glasses off. She'd gotten them back from her mother. Right after the ceremony, I was confident the glasses did not have a designer label. They were just essential and unflattering. I watched her as she leaned back, eyes closed. She had opted for simplicity and worn a sleeveless cream-colored dress with nude heels. Her hair was a dark cloud around her shoulders, not as statuesque as Scandinavian beauty like Vivian. She wore minimal makeup, and her lips were painted pink. I thought, as I observed her, she was not presentable with some money thrown at her. And with the help of salons and boutiques, she could look like someone I might be interested in being with for the following year. She didn't have a purse with her. They've always worn expensive handbags that matched her outfit. I had bought her a few in orange boxes with the Hermes logo on them. They have loved President. I won't wonder how she would react if I bought her a designer bag, but why would I? She sighed and opened her eyes. She flashed a smile at me. "I'm sorry. I've had some long days lately." She told me I finished my thesis defense yesterday and then got on a flight early this morning. So my brain is cotton. "What are you studying?" I ended my tie. I felt like it was choking me. "I just finished my master's in social work." She said excitedly, "Social work?" "Yes, I already have interviews lined up here in LA. If I'm lucky, I should have a job soon." Job? She tilted her head and grinned, even though we had to have an arranged marriage. "I'm hoping you're not too archaic to say something like my wife doesn't work." She said that last part by changing her voice to sound masculine. I couldn't help it. I smiled, knowing I'd never say that. "Where would you work?" She sighed. "I'm hoping for a health center like you, Klar, or Keck. I specialize in pediatrics. It's a county that has a child maternal program that I'm hoping I can." "Why are you looking at me like that?" I shook my head. "I'm sorry. I don't know anyone who has a government job. The forest is the judge, as my mother said." She yawned. "I'm not that lofty. I'm just a licensed clinical social worker." Her eyes closed again, and her breathing slowed as the car drove through the Los Angeles traffic. I had not expected this to be our first conversation. I had thought she was talking about the marriage or well, anything, but that she had finished her master's program and was exhausted. I got a text from Forrest and smiled when I read it. "She seems like a nice girl. Maybe it won't be a horrible year for you." I texted back, "And yeah, she has a master's in social work." Forrest responded immediately. "No kidding." "What you respond?" On to his last message. She woke up with a start and looked at me with blank eyes that turned sheepish. Did I fall asleep mid-sentence?